So tonight it's a ParachuteAdams. The original Adams they had, oops, let me get the original Adams, they used a wing like this. You'd kind of strip this down and get it sized right. It's a little big. And so that would be your wing. And somebody along the way, and then we would hackle around that wing like the hackle we've done before. Tonight, you can see this is hackled this way. So that this will be a new thing, as well as this, and this whole structure is a parachute, the hackle and the, we call this piece of post. So somebody along the line decided that this is a better way to go about it. The white on top looks somewhat like the wing and also makes the fly much more visible. And this style of wrapping around makes it float better. So there's a lot of advantages to this style of fly. Many dry fly patterns that you tie can be tied as a parachute. So the rest of it is all stuff we've done. So we'll just get started. And so the trick tonight will be learning how to hackle in a new plane. Okay. Okay, first challenge is to get the proportions right, like all flies. And to do that, we'll start, do our jam knot, we'll wrap to the middle of the hook. Right, so that's in the middle, and then we'll come halfway back. So we're about 70. So we want to tie the post in about 75% of the way from the bend to the eye. That's our first chore. So the way I tie it is odd. A lot of people do the whole post structure. I do part of it, then go do the tail, and then come back, finish the front. Oops. Some futzing here with a piece of. Okay, so there's your Poly Pro. And we want that to be about the height of the shank. So what we'll do is we'll measure one end, set it at the tie-in point. Now you want to do two tight wraps, one right on top of the other. Now I'm holding the thread tight. You want to keep this thread tight here. And I'm keeping it tight with my bobbin. Okay, right here. See the hook bending? Oh yeah, I'm going to lift that up, the front end, throw a couple of wraps there, and that'll lock it in place. Now I take the back and I lift it up and I cut it. Oops, and cut that piece. Now that's the easiest way I've found to get all of that even. So now our post is about even. Now is the first trick. What we're going to do to make the post easy, you've got to get a really solid anchor here. This is where you make and break this thing. Okay, so the first thing is I'm going to actually turn these sideways. I just grab them and I turn them around. And you notice that the thread here is going at this angle. So I'm going to wrap the other one front, back, and make an X wrap. So I'll give it 3 wraps the other way. Nice and tight. When I get done with that, I'm going to do a couple in front and then a couple in back to lock that in. So you can see I got them side to side with a few strays, and I've got an X wrap. So that'll be our base. And I'm just going to pull this whole mess out of my way. Okay. So that's just so I can go do the tail and not be bothered. If you put the post up now, as a lot of people do, and then tie the feather on, it's just a bunch of things you have to work around. So I just leave that till I get back up here. So we go to the back. Now these bigger hackles like that one make nice tails. So I'm going to use this one for my tail. You pull whatever little fluffs are on there. Now this is kind of a mayfly profile, so we don't need a lot of feather. That's 5 or 6. And with the mayfly, an adult mayfly, the tail's about the same length as the shaft. A lot of things we're making them shorter than the shaft. So I'm turning it over here so I can see the measure. But this will be the length of the shaft. Tie that in. Now the next task here is the mayfly kind of has a carrot-shaped body. So I'm going to do some wraps. I'm going to make it thick from here, thinner back to the table. So just think, and I do not want to wrap this all the way up to the post. I want to leave a little gap about like that between the post and the thread. So now here we'll just start building our little carrot. Just kind of go back and forth a little further down every time. You also do it somewhat.
You can't see it, Mike. You're in the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Get over there where I can see what I'm doing. I can't see the profile the way I have to angle it for the camera, but okay. So we got it approximately right. And now we're going to put some dubbing on it. You all have done the dubbing. We want this noodle to be pretty thin because the thorax on mayflies are not very big. So again, I just wisp it out. That's probably too much. So with my rotary vise, I kind of like to push it out of the way so I don't have stuff getting in the way of this task. Okay. Getting that carrot shape. Okay, and I want to leave a little gap here. Okay. Now we're going to stand the post up. And this is the second place that is a make or break. So we're going to pull those two up. And I want to start with the thread behind the post, okay? I don't want the thread to start in front, I want it to start behind. So I come up and I go around. Now also notice that I'm holding this thing at a downward angle. If you hold it like this, you're going to pull stuff out. You're not going to be able to make the post. So you want to wrap it with this down, right on top of the hook shank. About 3 wraps. What I like to do is get it around. When I get here, then I give it a good tug. Okay, now we got our, oops, there, I see I pulled it off myself. Okay, once you got those wraps, then I'll do a couple more, get that base anchored. Now we're just going to walk up this thing. You want to have if you pull too hard, that's going to happen. Okay, if you get this up, see how it's, I'm sorry, what are you, let me do that a little, I'll go up a little further and show you that problem. So if you, there, so if you pull too hard, see I got it up a ways, now if I pull too hard, it unwraps. So it's a matter of having the right tension. Another way to do it, which I kind of used to do, I just wrap up now, is you wrap loose and then hold that to tug. And this also works. You want to come about a third of the way up the post, and then we'll wrap it back down. And this is one that'll drive you nuts. It's sort of like learning to use your whip finisher. And now we got a nice post. Now the next thing we want to do is tie in our hackle. It's leaning forward. You can straighten it out a little bit. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you want the hackle to be roughly the gap like the other things. Well, we got, so that's a sizing problem for when you have a cape and time on your hands to mess with it. So I'll just grab one here. Now I want to have a fairly long stem here. And the reason is I've got to get above the thread wraps. The other thing I want to do is I want to have the shiny side towards me. I don't want this side towards me. I want the good side towards me. Oops. Why? When we wrap it, if the good side is towards me, the ends are going to curl up and they won't trap each other, and it'll be easier to finish this thing off. So that just makes it easy. There's a metaphysical argument about which way to do it, but I find it a lot easier if I put the shiny side towards me. And so I catch it. Now you can see I'm up high enough. That's toward me. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this off. I'm going to come back here. And now I want to walk up, hold this, walk my thread up. Notice I got the tip down all the way to the top. And back down. I'm going to let it hang on the far side behind the post. Trim this off. Okay, now we're going to finish with the dubbing. Okay, so all this black stuff we're going to dub. Just cut. Okay, that should do it. So now we're going to finish dubbing this thing. Again, you want this pretty thin. And we'll build it up with wraps rather than try to get it with. Wisp it out. And then it'll just wrap itself around your thread. I'm also wetting my fingers to help a little. That's too much, but we'll go ahead and wrap it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to where I ended the other one and pick that up. Come up to the post. One wrap right against the post. Oops, stuck myself. Come to the front. Wrap up to the end of the hook eye. Do a couple of wraps around the saddle, build that up a little bit. Okay, so now we've got the dubbing applied and we're ready for the torture. Now what I've found, I know people wrap it at this point and tie it off. I cannot do that. So what I do is I take it out of my vise, turn it to the side. This is where it went spring on me before, Joe. Okay, so that's the natural way for me to wrap stuff. So I turn it on its side. So now what we want to do is get 5 or 6 wraps out of the hackle. First wrap was just bare. Oops, I trapped that bunch. Not in the way, am I? I can get a 6th one here. Okay, now's your next challenge. And when I pull this, you see I'm holding it actually off to the side, down the back, and that way what you have to do now is you've got to cinch this down without trapping any of the hackle hairs. So we're going to bring this up, and I'm bringing this way behind, so I don't trap any. Come up right tight to the body, and then I go back again, right? And so I'm careful to keep the thread away from this hackle. Okay, 3 wraps is good. We can let it go. Trim this nice and tight. Almost done. Now we're going to whip finish that in place. Looks impossible. It's not. It's kind of hard. I actually found, now this is the, oops, here's the hackle tool or the whip finisher we're using. They actually make a long reach. And I found this to be a handier thing. It just, you can grab a little further back, but I'll use the same one as you. But if you get tying a lot of these, you want to get a long reach. Just makes this step easier. And this is the same thing you went through. You're going to whip finish, but you got to make sure you keep the thread from trapping fibers. And for a while you won't. You can get your scissors and trim it. Oops. Round the eye. Watch it here. Don't trap anything. So this is really kind of new stuff for y'all. Oops, what happened there? All right. Trim that off. You can see the bottom, lots of hackle. I managed not to trap any. I don't know what this is hanging down here. Cut that off. Okay, that's it, folks. You ready to try that? And you want to be sure and stay with me on this thing. You get ahead of me, you might have a problem. You're gonna have problems anyway, I think, but I'll have fewer problems if we stay together. Okay, so we're going to take our yarn and we want to measure it to a hook shank. Put it right there, tie the midpoint in, 2 wraps nice and tight. Now keep it tight, keep that thread tight, throw a couple in front, 2 or 3, raise it up, cut the back piece off even. We'll wait here. You want to leave your thread hanging in front of where the post will be tied off, not behind. Everybody ready? Bob?
Yeah, I think they're ready.
Okay, so now this is where we're going to turn the yarn. I'm going to take my left hand. I hope everybody's right-handed, but if you're not, reverse instructions. The one that you grab in your left hand, you're going to push to the other side. The one you grab with your right hand, you're going to pull to the near side. Okay? So the one that was in the back is now on the far side of the hook. The one that was facing to the front is on the near side of the hook. And if you do that, you get an angle like this with your thread. We're in front, so we're just going to take this and wrap it through the middle. Try not to catch anything. A couple of times, and then we do this again nice and just as tight as you can get it without breaking things. Couple in front, couple in back, and then pull this down and get it out of the way. And we'll wait here. So this will be a first test of your thread skills. So if you can turn this and get it locked down, you're well on your way to making a post. If you don't get this tight, it'll wobble. And then if it's wobbly, it's just really hard to make the post. So it's really important that you get that anchored well.
Looks like we're ready, Mike.
Okay, so now the next step is we're going to go to the back of the hook.
Your beard's in the shot again, Mike.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. Yeah, my glasses they want to be pretty close to focus. And so it's just, old age is our problem here, gang. My old age. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to get some fiber, about 5 or 6. It's fighting me here. I'll just peel a little bit of that off and then it'll stop fighting. There we go. Just a small little clump. Tips out so they're straight. Peel that off. Shank length. Now same. And we'll go back up just a little ways behind the post and we'll wait here.
Looks like they're caught up, Mike.
Yeah, looks like they're going pretty good, Bob. Okay, so now we'll build our carrot body. And then we'll quit at the back of the hook, awaiting our dubbing step. I'm not in the way, am I? Nope. Okay. Sorry about that, gig. All right. So see, I built that little taper and I'm right back at the tail and we'll wait here. Everybody's got their little tapered body built. Then we'll put the dubbing on her. least half of the dubbing, back half.
I think we're good. There's a couple getting ahead of you, but everybody else is ready for you, Mike.
Okay. So we're gonna wisp out some dubbing and we'll go back to just a little bit behind the post. And again, you want this to be pretty thin. Getting a nice taper. And we'll finish up leaving that little bitty gap. We'll get in a minute. Now, the folks that do this the other way, they'll have their feather mounted already, the post done, and then they'll do the whole dubbing step. And I just find it easier to keep the feather out of the way right now and go ahead and do this much. And then put the feather and stuff in and then finish the dubbing. That's the reason I do it this way. I just found I'm more successful, but you know, if you can do it all in one shot.
Larry,
What's that?
you got about 5 times the dubbing you need there, Larry. So you took some off. That's okay. Try to get a nice skinny noodle. Wind it on there tight. We don't need much here.
No, you really don't.
Yeah, your noodle's about 5 times too thick, Larry.
Well, you can be generous with other people's dubbing. Yes, my rabbit first up, Joe.
That looks better, Larry. It definitely takes some practice. Maybe Mike can demonstrate a little bit how to twist a nice tight noodle there.
Yeah, on the next one we'll go. I'll spend a little time on that again. We'll do that.
I think they're ready, Mike.
Okay, so now we're back in thread control. First thing we want to do is just kind of get these wings stood up, your thread's behind it. And this part, oops, I'm going to shorten up my thread here. You want to stay very, now what about, there we go. We want to stay right tight to the hook, the back of the hook. You don't want to go up about 3 wraps. Get those nice and tight. And I just put 4 on and throw then a couple of wraps in front and then hang it behind again. And let's do that. And that should, if you get those tight and right down on the shaft, then we'll be ready to walk up the post. It should stay in place. When we're walking up the post, you want to make sure those wraps are together and your bobbin point is down. And, you know, then you just have to get the right tension and you can walk right up. If you get the bobbin orientation bad, you're going to pull it out. If you start leaving gaps, you're going to just tip it over and all your hard work will come undone. It's frustrating, but it doesn't take two. It's not rocket science, as they say.
I think they're ready, Mike.
Okay, so so notice I'm holding it with the end of the bobbin down, and then we're going to just walk up. I can actually, the way I did it originally when I started doing it this way, I go around loose, grab that and cinch it down a little bit. So I think that's probably the easier way to do it. You want to come up, wraps together, come up about 1/3 of the way on the post. Loose, tighten it up a little. And this is feel. You just got to practice. Okay, we have success. So we're going to wrap it back down before we lose it. And now it'll stay there. And it should feel pretty stiff. And if you can do that, we're ready to go. Again, you want to leave your thread hanging, you know, behind the post. Then I'll make it easier to come around and get your feather, your hackle.
I know Mike makes this look real easy, but it's not. I see some of you getting a little frustrated with it. Believe me,
it is not easy.
It's challenging.
Yeah, yeah, I
Probably the
spend-
hardest thing we'll try to teach you in this class.
Yep, thanks, Bob. Yeah, I've tied a lot of these things. Last year I tied a whole lot of them. I mentioned tying 100 of those clink hammers, which I showed you a little bit ago. And so I've spent a lot of time watching a lot of videos and practicing to come up with the way to do it. And it really is all about getting this base anchored. You get the base anchored, and then and the second part is to get a feel. The third part is to hold the tip of your bobbin down. If you can, so you're trying to get all those three things going at once. And when you do, it's pretty easy. And the other thing Bob mentioned is, this is hard, and we don't all have to do it the same way. So as you go along, if something's really giving you a problem, try to think of another way to do it. Maybe watch a video or two or something like that. I mean, I got in the habit of just doing this in 2 pieces. I just could not get that. That feather was just always in my way. I was hanging up on it. So I said, I'll just tie it later. So that's how I came to do it this way.
Looks like they're ready to go, Mike.
Okay, so we're gonna peel the barbs off, leave a nice long hunk of stem. Catch that here, bind it down a couple of times. I didn't get that exact. I'm gonna start again because it's twisted. That's what you want to watch for here. You want to make sure you get that facing out at this point and tall enough. Now there, it looks better. And then we'll just walk that up the post. By the way, I noticed something else I'm doing. I'm holding my bobbin like this, and I'm feeding it with my thumb so I don't have to pull. Oops, let me turn the other camera. See, I'm holding it in my thumb, and I'm feeding with my thumb, so I don't have to pull on things. The camera too, so I got it all screwed up showing you that. But it's, I go, feather. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, I guess. There we go. Almost there. All right. Cool, got it back. Okay, so what I was trying to show you is now let me just roll. See, I'm rolling it out with my thumb so that I don't have to pull. So it's another thing I learned to do, because when I pull it is when I lose stuff. Okay, get your feathers on. And then don't forget.
Looks like they're ready, Mike.
Okay, so we'll get ourselves some dubbing. Make a nice thin noodle. We'll marry up to what we brought up from the back, bring it up to the post, round the post, come up to the eye, do a couple of X's around the post here to cover that stuff up. And then finish up behind the post.
I think they're ready.
Okay. We're gonna turn our fly over. It's still fighting me. Sometimes you just have to coax them. And then we'll trim that off and then we'll whip finish the guy.
So Bob and Mike, I'm gonna log off. Greg already logged off, so I can head back to the office to
Okay.
clean things up after it's done.
And you can see I trapped a couple here, so we just trim those off. Sometimes those come out of the feather that you're trimming off, what I think those did, but that's it. Yeah, you're ready to try one on your own?